Hey everyone, welcome back to Underreported Stories, where I cover the news that CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News fail to report on or don't report on enough. And we won, y'all. We motherfucking won the election. Woo! That's probably really loud on the microphone. Gosh, that was such an amazing night. It was a rush to see Trump win. Also, incredibly freeing to get election results on election night. What a concept. The whole nation had just braced and accepted, and I'm sure there are plenty of you that were there and with me in this boat, that we had just embraced and accepted that election results were not going to be imminent on the night of the election. But the narrative was wrong. And thank goodness it was. I've never been so happy to be wrong about something. And so, I'm not going to lie, I'm just shocked all the way around. And then, the election happens, and now there are a bunch of people on TikTok and Instagram, a bunch of crying libs. And so I came on here with the full intention to just laugh at the insane responses to Trump's election win, the craziest people on the internet, and we still will in some capacity, because it's just interesting. It's fascinating to hear how people are going to respond to this. So yeah, we're going to do that. But I need to give it with a caveat of I came on here thinking, let's just shit on libs. Basically, I'm tired. I went to New York City. I'm not special in that I'm tired. Literally every single political analyst and commentator was up until 4 a.m. on Wednesday morning working. And then we got a couple hours of sleep and went to cover the election some more. So, yes, I understand I'm not special in that, but what I was hoping to do was not necessarily phone the episode in, but I was like, oh, easy, we're just going to react to a ton of videos this morning. But while I was making my coffee this morning, I saw a video from my friend Clarkson pop up on my TikTok page, and he was advocating that maybe making fun of some of these liberals isn't actually helping us move the goalpost forward. Now, I don't entirely agree with this, but it was food for thought. So let's watch this video again from my friend Clarkson, and you let me know your thoughts on this.
I'm sorry, but I don't find pleasure in watching people have mental breakdowns over the results of an election. And I think that if people are genuinely fearful for their lives just because the candidate they didn't like won, that's a sign that politics in America has strayed way too far away from what it should be. Now, I understand.
No, I get that. I really do. I understand that it's not fun to watch people suffer, but I think suffering is a very relative term here. Now, suffering in the actual sense of people suffering from real real pain, real problems. Of course, I wouldn't be poking fun of it. It's funny and it's comedic because it is a perceived suffering. There are a lot of women who have been posting online saying, I just woke up with no rights. Okay, wouldn't you feel a little different if you woke up with no rights all of a sudden? You couldn't get on the internet and post your little TikToks if you had no rights, quote unquote. But what's actually going on and why it's funny when you're looking at videos like that is because there's no actual suffering taking place. It's internal suffering that's happening because people don't really educate themselves on some of these issues. There are women that now believe that they woke up and Donald Trump is president and they have no rights. Donald Trump is not president until January 20th of 2025, first of all. Technically, I guess the 21st or halfway through the day on the 20th, okay? He's not president yet. Therefore, your perceived view that you don't have any rights is not true. So I think that's where some of it comes from. Making fun of people's actual suffering, I'm not on board with. Teasing someone or laughing at someone's perceived suffering, I understand why people think that's funny.
And why people want to see the opposing side have a mental breakdown when their side wins, because elections are nasty.
They're tribal, 100%. Elections are tribal. You're not going to change people's minds on that.
Call each other names, one side saying one thing, the other side saying the other, and politicians stoke the flames of that division. But at what point do we as individuals take a step back and realize that this behavior and this way of thinking is regressive and immature?
Let me clarify here. I never said that teasing people for their reactions to this is not immature. But at the same time, it isn't also incredibly immature to put your whole emotional and mental breakdown on social media. It is, yes, it is not the coolest or nicest or most mature thing to poke fun at people who are having emotional breakdowns on camera. I get that. It is also wildly immature, and no one can control what the internet does. The internet's going to do what the internet is going to do. If you decide as a fully grown adult, and it's been a lot of like women in their early 30s, posting your mental breakdown onto social media then opens the doors for people to comment on the comment or on the post that you made. So you have a fully developed brain, or I would only hope so if you're in your 30s or late 20s and you're posting this stuff. You have a fully developed brain. If you put yourself out there for the internet will comment. If you don't know the consequences of putting yourself out on the internet, you probably shouldn't have access to the internet. And that's a bigger problem than what we're going to be discussing here today. But in my mind, if you put yourself out for people to comment on, and then people decide that it's funny because you're suffering in a delusional way, I can only feel so. You have to take responsibility for your actions.
I'm independent, so I don't claim to be a representative for conservatives anymore. But what I will say is that if you're somebody who is genuinely fearful after this election, I want you to know that we probably disagree on things, but if your rights are ever at stake, I will be by your side.
Well, and again, that's really what Clarkson hit the nail on the head right there, is that if there does come a time when there is a line that's crossed, which I don't believe that there will be, but if there comes a time when the line is crossed and people are actually suffering, of course, I don't want people to be suffering. Then that's not what I'm advocating for at all. The problem is there is a perceived suffering that is not real at all. And so I think that's really the differentiation. If you're making fun of people who are actually suffering, that's just called bullying. If you're making fun of people who post themselves on the internet and are absolutely delusional about the way the world works and cannot seem to understand how this election was won by Trump and his supporters, there's nothing I can say to you. Like, it's just the internet is going to internet. It's going to be funny.
And I think that if more right-leaning people just got on here and said that, we could actually heal this country. So before reposting that video of a liberal melting down, maybe reach out to one.
Now, you guys know I am insufferably honest. So yeah, not going to lie, I feel a little bad because all I want to do is laugh at a bunch of libs. But this was a semi-convicting video in a sense, right? Like I said, if people put their honest feelings on the internet, I have every right to respond and react accordingly. But I think Clarkson did hit something really important, that making fun of people doesn't really get us anywhere. And so we're not going to make fun of people today. That's never the goal of this. But I just want to note that Trump supporters have always felt like a minority. And I think this is a really important caveat to before we watch videos. We've always felt like a minority, right? But after November 5th, we are a majority now, just to be clear. And minorities tend to coalesce and build stronger when they perceive themselves as minorities. So just as a fair warning to people that are out there like poking fun, maybe crossing the line on some of this, which I'll let you decide what the line is. I'm not here to be the police. I'm just saying, just remember that the Democratic coalition is going to spend the next 4 years rebuilding with this sense of they're the underdogs. So I am not here to poke fun at people, and I really don't want to poke the underdog because that's when they usually tend to get strong. But I do want to respond to some videos of liberals melting down or responding to the election and giving my takes. And I'm just going to let you guys decide. I just wanted to put out that disclaimer. You know, I don't think these views represent your average liberal. This is the very loud, vocal fringe. And putting these people and lumping them in with the majority of liberals, I don't think is entirely fair. So that is my disclaimer. But I'm done disclaiming things. So without further ado, let's get into the 5 best liberal meltdowns of the 2024 election. Today's show is brought to you by Based, my merch line. If you didn't know this already, I'm an independent creator, and the best way to support this show is by purchasing my merch line that represents your views. Instead of just asking you guys for donations to fund my independent journalism, my business partner and I created a line of merch called Based Apparel. Based means you are the opposite of woke. It means you're based in logic, you're based in truth, you're based in facts. You get it. Head over to basedinlogic.com to check out our latest apparel. My personal favorite right now is the conspiracy theorist hat. And remember, when you buy merch, you are directly supporting me and this show. And when you get your apparel, please be sure to tag me on Instagram so I can repost you. All right, let's start with this video from the Assistant Director of Fraternity and Sorority Life at the University of Oregon.
I'm done crying. My sadness is over. My anger has set in. I am a very petty person, and I am very proud of that. Love it about myself, actually. And so I say this in the most disrespectful way possible. I don't care if you are my family. I don't care if you're my friend. I don't care if we've been friends our entire lives. You can literally go fuck yourself if you...
Okay, good. So we know where this person stands. Again, it's why I caveat this, that this is like incredibly delusional. I personally have plenty of liberal friends who are not going to disown me and tell me to F myself and unalive myself because the election didn't go their way. This is a fringe group of people that are delusional enough. Now, I will say, if you're going to compare the conservatives of this country versus the liberals of this country writ large, then I'm going to bet, I would personally bet, again, I don't have any analytical data to back this up, I've just a gut feeling I have, that this is more of a sentiment that you see on the left than a sentiment you see on the right. But it would be a lie to say that this is only a sentiment you see on the left. I do know conservative people out there who would happily disown their family if they voted for Kamala. So it's really sad when you see it on both sides of the aisle. It's bad when you see it on both sides of the aisle. But again, I do understand the sentiment that a lot of conservatives have, that this is more so something that you see coming from liberals, specifically college-aged liberals. And I always do wonder if being on a college campus as a professor makes you more immature. And this really stands to push my theory that some of these professors are really immature because they surround themselves with a bunch of immature people.
For Donald Trump. If you are so sad about your groceries being expensive, get a better fucking paying job.
This is actually a line I've been hearing a lot on TikTok, is that do better for yourself. It's your fault that you're a poor piece of crap. Again, I don't know who you're going to win over with that line of logic. Clearly not the 50+% of Americans that don't feel that way. Pocketbook issues, I believe I was looking at this like sociological? It was like a psychologist's triangle about how we need our needs met. And the first one is like safety and stability. It's kind of like, our physical needs need to be met before our emotional needs need to be met. And emotional needs are really what Democrats run on. They run on these really emotional sociological issues about gender and being politically correct and et cetera, et cetera. The problem is they don't realize that people's physical needs are not being met to the capacity that we're used to. And it's not to say Americans don't live well above and well better than the rest of the world, but when those basic needs like safety and financial security and stuff like that, when those aren't being met, people are going to vote like that. So to demean people and say, well, just get a better job. We've all got pretty good jobs. We're good on the job part. Not everybody, but I will say, let me just say personally, I'm good on the job part. It's still too expensive when I see like $7 for a carton of eggs. That's too expensive. The problem is not how much money I'm bringing in, it's how much my dollar is worth.
In life, get a fucking education. Do something. Because you are fucking stupid. And I hope you go jump off of a fucking bridge.
That's really going to win people over. I mean, I can't think of anybody better to be a surrogate for how conservatives feel, if that makes sense. This is how they feel. They feel like everybody that is a liberal hates them and talks down to them. And somebody like this, literally doing that, only stands to build that narrative in their mind, whether it's true about the population writ large or not. All right, moving on to our next video. Full disclosure, I have not watched the next 3 videos. I watched like the first 15 seconds-ish to get a gist of what we were going to watch. But I really did just want to save my live reactions for now when I was talking with you guys. So I believe the context of this video is that this woman is crying because her parents voted for Donald Trump and she is mad at them.
I hate to be the person that gets on here and cries. But this could break me and my parents apart because they just don't understand what they voted for. And like,
okay, so much to unpack there in the first couple seconds. First of all, if you don't want to be the person that comes on here and cries, idea for you, don't come on here and cry. Just a thought, okay? Maybe compose yourself, get your thoughts together, write them down somewhere, and then eloquently speak them to the internet. I have no problem with you doing that. You want to have a different opinion than me and speak them eloquently to me? For sure. Go for it. I've watched like 5 videos alone of Democrats responding to this loss, and I liked them. I interacted with them. I thought they were like compelling. This is not compelling. This is just whiny tears. Second, I really also hate the notion that you can't have a relationship with somebody because they don't vote the same as you, especially your parents. Again, that is your decision. These are multiple decisions that this person is actively making, and that is why I don't necessarily feel bad pointing them out or reacting to them, because these are conscious decisions. They're not good decisions, they're emotional decisions, but they are conscious decisions that this individual is making. You can have a wonderful relationship with your parents who, if you're a Trump supporter, voted for Kamala, or vice versa. I see it all the time. You don't have to let politics destroy you. You're being delusional. Third and final point I make before we get back to the video, the idea that her parents don't know what they voted. They know damn well what they voted for, okay? People are not just going up to the polls and saying, oh, I don't know what's going on here, just gonna vote for the first person on there. Like, people are not fucking doing that. People are learning about why they're voting for somebody and they're voting for them. They're watching something and they have compelling reasons pulling them to vote for a person. I would venture to say that the majority of people, even if I strongly disagree with them, had a reason why they voted for Kamala, a reason why they voted for Trump. To say they don't understand is just diminishing it's an inability. I understand why people voted for Kamala. Now, I can run intellectual laps around some of them sometimes when it comes to what they're voting for. I might not agree that it's real or reality, or I think that she's handling it the best or would handle it the best. But it boggles my mind when people are like, Trump supporters don't know what I know full well what I'm supporting, okay? I'm very educated. I very much understand this. This is not just stupid people or uneducated people voting for Donald Trump.
What it means and the bigotry and hatred that they stand behind, and how I am trying to be a good person. I'm not Catholic like they are, which is ironic because it's religion's supposed to make you love.
Okay. Again, I'm starting to feel bad for her because she's just so delusional. It's it is. I get what Clarkson is saying now. It is sad to watch people this delusional break down on camera. Again, it comes down to just a fundamental, clearly inability to understand her parents. Catholicism and Christianity writ large has a set of standards that say Jesus loves everybody despite their sin. I love somebody more than I hate their sin. Understand that. That doesn't mean I go and condone things that I think are wrong. Similar to how liberals have let's call them leftists. Leftists have a very similar point of view where they come and say, I want to love all these people, but only if they follow my guidelines. That's the same thing, okay? It's the same thing on both sides, by the way. So your perceived ideology of leftism is also supposed to make you love everybody, yet you actively hate people who think differently. It's both sides. The inability to understand or talk to each other instead of just talking through each other is clearly what's causing this person umbrage.
But I could see it breaking me and my parents apart because they just don't get it, and they don't get that they voted for someone who's gonna make my friends' lives hell.
Well, that's not true. Again, that's a perceived problem. This is my problem with some of these liberal meltdowns. I feel like beating a dead horse here, but if you can actually come to the table with facts about why you think something, why you believe this is I feel like he's going to make my friends' lives a living hell because all I've been told by the mainstream media is that my friends' lives are going to be a living hell because Trump hates gay people, even though he had a gay wedding at Mar-a-Lago, even though he has gay people in his administration, even though he's championed LGBT right. Like, he doesn't give a shit about any of that stuff. If you think that Donald Trump is going to bed going, how am I going to kill gay? Like, you're just stupid. You are. You're just dumb. You're not paying attention. You're buying into a set of lies. That, to me, is irritating. Now, I'm not calling this individual stupid. I would not doing that. I'm saying the ideology of buying into this is a stupid ideology. Do not believe people that get money for rage baiting you on the internet, telling you that Donald Trump is racist, sexist, homophobic, all those things, okay? So, again, why I picked this video, even though I didn't get this far when I watched it, but part of picking this video and why I'm glad I picked this video, I guess I should say, is that it really does point out that if you would just talk to one another, we could get to a conclusion, but it's all feelings driven. It's not fact driven.
My life's okay. I'm a white woman, but my friends are not gonna be okay.
No, now I'm laughing. Fuck that. You're a white woman. You're gonna, girl. 54% of white women voted for Donald Trump. Okay, like, and they're made Trump's campaign made inroads with Black people, Puerto Rican people, Hispanic people. Like, this was not done by white boys. This was a campaign that was won with landslide support from every single demographic across the board. Okay, again, this is just a perceived insanity. I gotta move on, or else I'm just gonna start teasing her. All right, let's move on to our next video. Our third video. Again, didn't watch much, but this woman claims that people who didn't vote for Donald Trump are scared. Mind you, I've only watched the first 15 seconds, but initially when I heard that, I was like, we are in such politically divisive times that Republicans were scared if Kamala was going to win too. Like, this is not wildly insightful by any stretch of the means that people have become so, or politics has become so weaponized that people are actually fearful for their lives when a president changes, even though I understand psychologically how we've gotten here, but it's really dramatic on both sides of the aisle.
The crazy thing to me is that if this guy does end up winning again, all of the people who voted for him will be like happy and they'll just be celebrating. And everyone else, everyone who feels threatened by him is fucking scared. Like, we're scared for our lives. We're scared for our friends. Like, you have pro-life women dying because their doctors are scared to treat them.
I'm sorry, I stopped that a little early. Okay, painful to watch because that's not at all what's happening. Again, you have to speak into this because the suffering here is so self-inflicted. They read sources, these people read sources saying that pro-lifers are dying because there's not adequate abortion. This is not happening. Most of the stories, if not all the stories that you'll hear from the pro-choice crowd of these women are dying because doctors can't perform abortion surgeries. If you actually dig into them, or my favorite ones are oh my gosh, this person got arrested for having an abortion. If you read any of that, like, actually dig into the facts, which we've done on this channel many times, not true. They aren't true, but people buy into propaganda, and I think the mainstream media really understands that people are not reading much past the headline. So as long as they put the proper information in the article, but it's towards the end, they know that they can steer the narrative in their own direction by putting the headline as, South Carolina woman almost jailed for having an abortion, when in actuality, she birthed in a live child and then let it drown and died in a toilet. That's the actual facts. So again, it's difficult because I want to put the blame on people who have access to information. We all have access to the same information. I just have maybe more time than other people to go and research it because it's my job. But pull myself aside, there are a lot of Republicans that understand that it's a lie. So maybe it has nothing to do with me and my time and everything to do with just an inability to read past propaganda. And so that's why part of me feels bad for these people, because you should be able to trust your journalistic institutions to tell you the truth. But the journalists have become more of a propaganda machine than anything else. And at what point do we fault the people or what point do we keep faulting the journalists? You know, there's like a line and I don't know where it falls. I feel bad for people because you should just be able to turn on the news and get the truth. And that's just not true anymore.
Because of the repercussions of his last presidency. How did we get here? How did we get here?
We got here because Kamala ran a campaign where she thought that sociological issues were more important than economic issues, if you just wanted to really answer your question.
To know that there is that much ignorance and that much hate in this country, it's so terrifying. It's so terrifying.
It is terrifying to see a lot of ignorance. I sympathize because I'm witnessing it right now.
How could you do this? How can you claim to be a Christian or anyone of moral values and support someone when every word out of his mouth is hate, when he wants to pardon people who took over the Capitol? Do not.
Okay, if you actually really want clarification, if you're asking the question, honestly, I'm happy to give you an answer. I do not vote for somebody based on their moral character, because the moral character that I hold people to is trying to be more like Jesus. The thing is I hold my friends to that standard. I don't need to hold my president to that standard. Ideally, I'd like to. I'm not saying that I wish or I'm okay with who Donald Trump is. I wish he were a better person. I make no qualms about that. I never lie about that. I'm more interested in the policy that allows me to continue my freedom of religion, my freedom of speech, my freedom to have a platform like this. That's what I'm voting on. If people think that I'm voting based on moral characteristics, I'm voting based on policy. There's nothing about the policy that is morally corrupt. In fact, it's the other way around. When I look at the Democrats' policy, I find a lot of that to be morally corrupt. So this line that Christians are supposed to take so much into consideration the personality of the individual enacting the policy, I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in the policy. Is it going to further my ability to build kingdom in America? If so, I'm all game for it. If not, I'm not. And by the way, I'm here in my Make America Great Again shirt. If you're in the listening audience, you can't see. I'm in a Make America Great Again shirt. And I'm enjoying my time of being pro-Trump, but I do just want to qualify all of this by saying that as soon as the Trump administration comes into office, make no qualms about this. I will be pulling punches on both sides. If he does something that I find to be reprehensible politically, I will call him out for it. And of course, I will call out some of the social things, but in honesty, it doesn't matter that much. I don't care what he does in his personal life. If you have issues with people's personal qualms, then why the fuck is Bill Clinton still speaking at every Democratic event? For real.
Do this to people that you love and care about. If you have a woman in your life, if you have an LGBTQ person in your life, if you have anyone in your life who's not white, how did we get here? Someone tell me, please.
Okay, final answer to your question. Yeah, I hate this idea that we're framing this as boys versus girls. I loathe this idea that women are coming on here saying, I'm a girl, so I voted this way. Hi, I'm a girl, voted for Trump, and I voted for Trump because girls care about security. Girls care about the economy. Girls are not stupid, okay? You're a bunch of effing misogynists if you come out here and tell me that because I have a vagina, I have to vote a certain way, and I have to prioritize my emotional needs over my physical needs. It's fucking delusional. And because Kamala did that, that is why she lost the campaign. If you're wondering how you got here, that is an honest to God take of how you got here. All right, this next video is a little bit longer and it hits on this new theme I've been seeing all over TikTok where women have gone on a sex strike because Donald Trump was elected. So this woman allegedly is going to tell us and all of her followers to hug, cuddle, and kiss their female friends instead of men and go on a sex strike for the next 4 years.
I'm gonna be honest, I was very blindsided by the results this morning. I've decided that cigarettes don't count today, and I honestly might go get a tattoo. But I also have decided that for the next 4 years, I am going to abstain from schmex with men. And funny enough, I actually just broke up with my boyfriend a handful of days before the election, and it had nothing to do with the anticipation of Donald Trump winning this election. It had everything to do with problems within our relationship and massive differences between who we were as people.
Okay, so now I understand. I'm like getting into this person's emotional state. Like, I am going to be very careful and trepidatious about my words. This is somebody that just came off a breakup, is maybe in an emotionally unstable space. So I am going to be trepidatious with my words here. I feel really bad for people when they go through breakups. That sucks. Can't lie. Like, a breakup really sucks, especially when you put your time and energy only to find out that you guys are not compatible. I feel bad for her. Taking that emotional trauma that you're having of going through a relationship, though, putting it on the internet to talk about the election, probably not the smartest move. I will say that.
Which was unfortunate and sad. I wish him well, though. But yeah, as a woman, my bodily autonomy matters. And this is my way to exercise sovereignty over that.
Again, hate this line of thinking that I'm a woman, therefore I care about my body. Like, we all give a crap about women's ability to have autonomy over their body. It's what you have autonomy over. Do you have autonomy over the right to, like, go to the bathroom? Of course. You're acting like I need to go knock on my husband's door and say, "Hi, honey, can I go potty?" Like, fuck right off. That is not what's happening, okay? You don't have the ability in some states to get an abortion up until birth, okay? Just calm the F down. And by the way, that is a very popular position among the American population. I really do wish that there was a federal abortion amendment that went out to the American people and said, would you like to stop abortion at 6 weeks, 15 weeks, or at what point do the American... Because I know the American people, I trust the American people, the wide majority of Americans would vote for a 15-week abortion ban. And pro-lifers, Christians out there, we can disagree with that, of course. It would still be a step in the right direction. I'm not advocating for this necessarily. I just know that Americans are not in favor of abortions past 15 weeks. And if a lot of people were educated on it, a lot more educated on what an actual abortion is instead of like what a perceived right to an abortion is, I actually think the majority of Americans would move it back to 6 weeks around heartbeat bill, which is what pro-lifers have been advocating for a long time in terms of making the right step. So I just don't buy into this narrative that because you are a woman, you think X. Hi, woman here, don't agree with you.
So I highly encourage any other women that are single, and care about progressing women's rights and still fighting for our bodily autonomy, to do the same. Delete your dating apps, because we can come together in community and...
Wait a second. I'm kind of loving it. I don't necessarily have this fully fleshed out in my head, so give me a sec. But like, you're telling me that this is religious conservatives / like conservative cultural people that say this, not necessarily like what you want the federal government telling you to do, but the cultural conservative movement, which I guess I'll put myself in that sphere. We don't want people to be aimlessly dating, aimlessly fucking around with each other. We want people to be, taking care of themselves, being responsible, dating in a healthy way, maybe withholding sex until marriage, or, there are a lot of people that say maybe like around engagement. Again, I'm not giving you my opinion. I'm just telling you what normal people think, that we're not just like effing every guy we see at the club. Like, it's probably not for the best. The fact that women think that by withholding themselves because Donald Trump is presidency, that they're winning and they're advancing femininity is funny, because they think it for the wrong reasons. When in actuality, I'm like all for this, because I'm like, wait, women are going to realize that withholding sex from men will actually make men more interested in them. It's going to kind of create that chase. You're going to get off the dating apps and maybe get into hobbies, find yourself, be a whole person, because a lot of people come into dating with the idea that they have to be a good half for someone. No, come in as a whole person, and two wholes will make, one flesh. I actually think that people don't realize that they're about to enact the exact values that conservatives have been advocating for. That's kind of funny.
If you need somebody to cuddle or hold your hand or give you a kiss, I bet you one of your girlfriends would do it, okay? And you don't even have to really be gay, okay? It's okay to have a lot of platonic love for the next 4 years. I think
4 years is a long time, by the way. I don't think she realizes that.
Look to South Korea and the 4B movement as a point of inspiration for us women in America right now, because I'm astounded that we still don't have a woman president, and I'm very disappointed. But funny enough, as an American, I don't think that Donald Trump stole the election.
Okay. I'm gonna bypass the part of like he stole the election. There's yeah, of course, there's no proof. All this, anyway, I'm not going to get into that. What I am going to get into is this idea that we needed a woman president. You know, even if, let's say, Tim Walz was the front runner on the campaign for Democrats, even if Joe Biden still was, they're all championing the same things. Like, just because Kamala was the front face of it doesn't do anything to advance femalehood or femininity or anything like that. Sure, it makes like a visual statement. I'm not going to deny that. But I don't understand this idea that you lost your bodily autonomy or whatever the argument is because a woman wasn't elected. A Democrat wasn't elected. That's your problem. You just like the idea of saying that Americans are perceived as, or that you can say that Americans are sexist. That's what you like to say. That's what she's really getting at. Anyway, I'm done listening to this woman. She has really nothing to argue, and I quite frankly feel really bad for her. Okay, for our final video, I chose one that really hits the nail on the head as to why a lot of Trump supporters don't feel bad for laughing at liberal meltdowns online, because this woman that we're about to watch, she said she hopes Trump supporters, female Trump supporters like myself, have complicated pregnancies and have bad stuff happen to them. Now, I alluded to this point earlier, or I spoke this point earlier on the show, that according to exit polls, which I'll admit can be a little bit iffy, but if they're close to correct, 54% of white women voted for Donald Trump, which means the woman we're about to watch, she's wishing that half of women experience complicated pregnancies because she's a hateful and spiteful person.
Now that we're all saying what we're thinking, I'm going to go ahead and say that I think if you voted for Donald Trump, you're ugly. I think you're all freaking ugly. And
Thank you. I think I'm pretty ugly today too. Red's not my color, but you don't have to tell me.
You're dumb as bricks. And I think you're a bigot in every sense of the word.
I wonder why the Democrats lost. Like, oh my God, I wonder why they lost. It couldn't possibly be because they say their shit out loud. Like, come on. You're going to call everybody that doesn't vote like you ugly, bigoted, and stupid? That's not going to win hearts and minds, but keep going. I love it.
Use of the word. I also not only won't care when all the bad stuff that's gonna happen happens to you, I actually want it to happen to you. I want your taxes to go up. I want things to be more expensive for you. I want you to have a complicated pregnancy. I want all that bad stuff to happen to you because that's what you deserve.
Nice. That's really kind of you. You do know that everybody is going to, we're all going to get the repercussions of what half the country voted for. That's how it works. When you voted for all of our taxes to go up and for inflation to go up, I had to deal with the consequences. So now you have to deal with the consequences of my vote too. It's how America works. You claim, people on the left, claim to love democracy. Well, these are the repercussions of democracy. Don't like it? Bye. Leave. Like, oh my gosh, also, I'm loving the way people are just deleting their social media accounts. All these people that were like, I'm leaving if Trump wins. No, you're not. No, you're not.
Also, the only silver lining is it's actually going to suck for all you Trump voters way more than it's going to suck for us blue voters, because we actually have educations and good jobs. Y'all are broke as fuck, so it's really going to suck for you when he raises your taxes a ton.
At least she's saying it, maybe props to her for saying it. She thinks down on people. It's this elitist attitude that got Democrats to the point where they are. This is the same thing that happened from the University of Oregon guy, and now this bitch. They're out here saying, oh my gosh, because you don't have good jobs or good educations, that is why you voted for Trump. You're stupid and you're dumb. That's really going to win people over to your side. I can't think of anything smarter to do than tell people, because you don't have what I have, you're stupid and you deserve death. That's basically what she's saying. I think it's so funny. As a very I got a full collegiate education. I have an amazing job, and we're dinks, dual income, whatever. I don't need to explain myself, but I'm very well off for being 27 years old, successful on social media, whatever, doing my thing. I still voted for Trump. It's not about education levels. It's about, again, a psychological pursuit of basic needs. And when Democrats failed that, of course this is going to happen. You know who else knew that? Bernie Sanders. He put out this whole montage on X or Twitter or whatever, and on his pages and everything, going through how the Democratic Party has failed to win over the working class voters. Because the reality is that America's not actually racist. It's not actually sexist. It's classist, okay? You can love America and agree that it is classist. As a white woman, I have more in common with a middle to upper class Black woman than I do with a white person in poverty, because we live similar lifestyles regardless of our skin color, right? My skin color doesn't make me closer to JD Vance when we had polar opposite childhoods and things in life that happened, events in life that happened that shaped how we are today, right? The way I go through life with somebody in the same class as me is how I'm going to perceive the world. The problem is, for Democrats, is that from the about upper middle class and below, they are grieved by Democratic policies. And then their elites on top, who don't have to worry about kind of the economic problems that come as ramifications from Democratic policies, they then talk down to people in lower classes. That is classism at its finest, and that is exactly what Democrats are exemplifying. And it's so funny because they claim to be the party of the aggrieved when they are actually they really have become the party of the rich and the elite, which they love to point the finger at Republicans for, when they really just switched. Donald Trump has completely switched the makeup of the party. And honestly, I'm very happy with it. I like being the party of the people. That's what Republicans are nowadays. Anyway, before we wrap up the show, I did want to give more of an honest and serious reaction to this election, since I didn't actually have election night coverage on my platforms. And I think my thoughts are best summarized reacting to the media's coverage of this election, because by every stretch of the imagination, the media told us that this was going to be a 50-50 split, that women were going to come out and vote in overwhelming majorities for abortion rights, which, side note, I did believe that point at one point because the 2022 data indicated that in the midterms, but there was no institutionalized polling on the issue that was taken seriously. It was so biased. We were also told that minorities were against Trump and that the data was false about his gains among young people because the media simply didn't want to believe it. And as a person whose job it is to criticize media coverage, Kamala lost partly because no one criticized her in the media. And I think that is so bad for Democrats as well. Like, I am doing this kind of post-moratorium on everything that happened in the election from the eyes of the Democrats of how do you win after this? Because let me be clear, propaganda is awful for a litany of reasons, but criticism, valid criticism from smart people in the media, that is worthy of any candidate's time and resources. And it helps shape a campaign and after the campaign an administration that reflects what people want. And I think that Trump does a really good job of that, and Kamala didn't. For instance, Republicans writ large, I'm going to bring it back to the issue of abortion, are very pro-life. Donald Trump really isn't. Donald Trump has put in pro-life people to positions. He himself is not pro-life. He's got his pulse on the culture, I'll say. Because whether you want to agree with it or not, whether you like it or not, most women that are Republican are still in favor of some sort of abortion. They don't want to say it out loud because they don't want to get canceled or be called baby killers or whatever. But most women are in favor of abortion until like up to 6 weeks or something like that. Like I said, they're not up for abortion up until like the point of birth, but they are okay with it because culture has normalized it, right? So I really do think it's a culture fight, and Donald Trump has his pulse on the finger, or his fingers on the pulse about all of that. And so it's reflective in his campaign, it's reflective in his administration, and so he was a lot more palatable on that issue for pro-choicers than maybe a JD Vance would even be. I don't know where his position is on that, but I understand he's a lot more pro-life than Donald Trump is. Kamala never received real criticism, so she didn't actually know what to do. And then when she got real criticism, she just like ran with it that way and then ran back when she got criticism from the left. It was like this weird zigzag dance where she would do, where she was like, oh, you're too leftist. And she'd be like, okay, well, I guess I'm a moderate. And then the moderate or the campaigns, the like far left nonprofits and whatnot would say, oh, well, you're too to the middle. You need to stick with us on this issue. And she would zigzag back. She didn't have her pulse on what the people actually want. She had her pulse on what maybe media advocates that love her want and nonprofits and lobbyist organizations want. And what's so funny about all of it is that for so long, Democrats have made that as a key thing that Republicans do. Oh, Republicans want you to have guns because the NRA lobbies for it. No, Republicans now are the party of understanding common sense. And that is what Kamala and the Democrats lost on. They lost on common sense. I say this all the time when I go to colleges to speak to students. If you want to win people over, just have a modicum of common sense and decency to people, because as soon as you start exposing that common sense is conservatism, people will hop on. They don't want to be a part of an organization or a party that tells you that you have to have your pronouns after your name. Okay? No one wants to be a part of that. And so I really do think that that is what lost the election for them. In a sense, wokeness lost the election for them. Now, do I think the media is going to change? No, I think the media is going to media. I've witnessed how unresponsive conservative mainstream media can be to change, and they kind of get it relative to institutions like CNN and MSNBC. So no, I don't think there's going to be any change, but it is really important that we do a little bit of self-reflection on how wrong the media is, so that when 4 years from now this all comes through again, we can recognize what's real and what's bullshit. So anyway, I hope you guys liked this entire episode. I'm so interested to hear your thoughts on whether we should be reacting or how we should be reacting to people having meltdowns. And if you're a real one and you made it to the end of today's show, will you drop the American flag emoji and let me know which of these meltdowns was your favorite? Thanks, friends. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked what you heard, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment about how beautiful, stunning, and funny I am. And if you want more content based in logic, be sure to click over here for more videos and clips of my show. If you have the means to financially support the show, consider purchasing from my merch line, Based Apparel, linked right below. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you back here next time. Bye, friends.